Welcome to another review with the Law and Order Lady, and you guys know I'm the Law and Order Lady. So this particular episode of SVU season 26 episode 7 is called Tenfold, and I'm covering my face because this episode really got to me, and let me tell you why. It got to me because, first of all, it's another SVU episode that was solved, that was and you can see I was actually crying. Oh my gosh, this was really something to me. Let me just start with this. How did it start? You know what we do. How did it start? What happened? Why? Who did it? And why? And how did it end? So how did it start? Well, we see a recap with Carisi tearing into that man that was looking at his daughter, right? And staring at his daughter. And then we also get a recap of Detective Bruno with the girl that was raped and found in the garbage truck, right? Well, we see her again. And this time she's talking to her mom. And her mom's like, well, where are you going? You know, you putting makeup on. It's late. You know, I don't want to get all up in your business. But, you know, where are you going this time of night? And so she's like, I'll be okay, Mom. I'll be home before you and Freddie even know it. And I'm thinking Freddie must be her mom's husband. So, or her stepfather or something like that. So she goes out on a stroll, and we see that she's a night worker, and that this is what she does for a living. But anyway, she doesn't have a pimp, and all the other girls out there are kind of like, you know, making fun of her because she doesn't have a pimp, and they're like, oh, you special. And she's like, no, I'm not special, but I'm not going to be doing this forever. And I'm like, okay, girl, you better tell them you're not going to be doing this forever. And I'm thinking, what is she doing it for in the first place if she's not going to be doing it forever? So when the other girls walk off, Wallen, her name is, she talks to another girl who happens to be cold. She has no jacket on. She looking real cold outside. And Wallen says, hey, you want my coat? And she's like, no, I'm not a good earner. That's why I haven't clocked out. And she sees that there are bruises on the girl's face. Been there, done that, by the way. With the bruises, not the prostitution. No. Anyway, but I'm not judging anybody. Because you do what you have to do to put food on the table for your children, right? Or yourself. I mean, we don't know why she was working it, right? I mean, we do, but let's not go there yet. So when she talks to the girl about the bruises, and she gives her some money, and she says, why don't you just go and clock out, you know? And the girl's like, well, why would you give me money? And she says, the good book says, if you cast your bread upon the waters, it'll return to you tenfold. And that's the name of this episode, Tenfold. Ecclesiastes 11:1 tells us this, that in other words, if you do good wherever you go, it'll come back to you tenfold, right? So Wallen is obviously a good person, but in a bad environment due to her choice of employment. So what happened? We see her walking home. Actually, we see a silver car pull up, and then we see a cutaway to her walking home. She's accosted, and she's dragged by her neck. Excuse me, hold on a second. I know, damn, that's a big cup. Anyway, she's accosted. And she's dragged by her neck by some type of belt or scarf or something through the street. And then she's taken in between two cars. And you can imagine what happens, right? So Sergeant Tutuola, or Finn, as we like to call him, because I call him Finn, and then Detective Bruno, they're getting ready to go out and have a drink. But instead, the phone rings. And Detective Bruno is like, I got to answer the phone. So he does. He answers the phone. And then they go down, they see Wallen. They see it's Wallen. And Wallen talks to Detective Bruno, and she's like, you remember me? And he's like, yeah. And he hugs her, and she's like, I don't know what happened, but I was raped. I think I was raped. So he hugs her, and then dun 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 dun, cue the music. And by the way, I love the picture of them all at the end that they have with that look like, we ain't playing with y'all. Yeah, we do this for a living. So anyway, getting back to what happened, and this, I don't know, this just really touched me. So who did it? Well, we see Liv in her office. She's got her eyes closed. She's resting. Carisi busts into the office and tells her that the substitute teacher that he saw, like, looking at his daughters and young girls. He wants to go to the school that he found out that this guy works at and talk to them about this guy. And Liv is like, no, we really need to mind our business. But he talks her into it. He talks her into the fact that he wants to go to the man's school and talk to him about him peeping at, being a peeping Tom and peeping at young girls. So then she says he's crazy, but he's a dad. I mean, when you're a parent, you do what you got to do to take care of your kids, right? So they end up talking to Finn. Liv talks to Finn about Wallen, and she's been raped, like we thought, anally and vaginally. Oh my God. So Wallen is leaving. She don't even want the rape kit because she's like, nothing's going to happen. Even though they solved the previous rape that she was raped, she's like, ain't nothing going to happen. She tells him she ain't hoeing no more. Basically, she lying, basically, but I guess she has her reasons. Then they convince her to do a rape kit. When they convince her to do the rape kit, Detective Silva and Captain Curry, they actually show up. And Finn tells them, hey, we need, a little assistance. Y'all going out to the street, find this information, find somebody that knows somebody, look at the crime area, find something. So they go out there. They find a broken heel. They find drag marks, a broken heel, and then they find out that the car where the drag marks end in between the two cars, one of those cars is an electric car. And color me activated, because when I learned some information, I'm activated. I did not know that electric cars have cameras in them and they're motion activated. So the car was stolen and the camera was motion activated. It was still in the car. So Wallen is still saying she's not a sex worker, but when they do the rape kit, they find 3 different samples of semen inside of her. So she doing something, right? So we get to why. Why is Wallen denying what she's doing? She clearly told the other girl she wasn't going to be doing this forever. I mean, they talked to Wallen in the diner. When I say they, I mean Detective Bruno and Finn. And they try to convince her that that Captain Benson is now mad at them. Because I'm like, Liv kind of got a little attitude lately. I think she's overworked. I think she's tired. But girl need a rest for a minute. But anyway, she gets into Detective Bruno and Finn and says, look, no excuses. Make her trust you. She's still lying to y'all, telling y'all she ain't out on the stroll. Make her trust you. So they go back, they talk to her, and they say that, they find out that she's working on night classes. She's trying to get her GED. That's the reason why she was out there, and to pay half her mom's rent. I mean, the girl is a good girl. Seems like it, We do bad things sometimes to get to the good end result. So no judgment here. So anyway, she says that a guy asked her for some ass, basically. And then he got rough with her and she fought him out and she walked away. And then she took the date that Jade was supposed to have. Remember I told you she gave a girl some money? Well, the girl's name was Jade. That was the girl that she told to go home and clock out. So Detective Bruno tries to talk to Jade. Her pimp doesn't want her to talk to them, obviously. But she says, yeah, I remember her. Yeah, she gave me some money. What about it? And they're like, well, she got raped and choked out last night. And she says that, they say, well, she was one. They said that Wallen said this guy was one of your regulars. So who is he? And she's like, okay, his name is Miguel. He's from the Bronx. And yeah, he does want anal sex most of the time. Y'all already know. You're nastyful. But anyway, if that's what y'all do out there, I'm not judging you either. But for some people, that's not their taste. That's not my taste. So anyway, Jade tells them that she got the money from Wallen, tells them the name of the guy. They go talk to the guy in the Bronx. And he's like, I didn't do it. So Liv, like I said, is kind of in a bad mood, but she really wants to help. And Finn always wants to help. So as he's working this case, he's also telling Jade, look, if you ever want to get away from this pimp, I got you. Here's my card. So I love Finn for that because he's so helpful. And he really does want people to live a better life. So Liv and Carisi, they talk about this guy. And they find out that he had underage charges before, but nothing was ever done about it. They just removed this guy from the school because obviously he's a substitute teacher, some type of teacher, right? Man, Carisi says, if this is Noah's school, what would you do? And she's like, oh, I'll be doing what you're doing. Yeah. So she's trying to tell Carisi, look, this guy is innocent until proven guilty. He ain't really done nothing yet. And Carisi's like, look, he ain't finna do nothing because we finna get into this, okay? And she's like, look, calm down, but I'm with you. So how does it end? You know, Wallen does not want to go to court. She says that people in her neighborhood don't talk to the police. And I can totally agree with that. You know, they now pick Miguel up for solicitation. They explain that she won't be arrested or judged if she goes and talks to Liv. And I love that because Liv is so open-minded. She doesn't judge anybody. They want to help her. So Liv tells her that all her cases are serious, including Wallen's, which gives her comfort. And I love that. And so they ask Wallen, let's watch the video. They watch the video. They see her walking. They see her dragged. They see her get raped and left for dead in the middle of the street. But Wallen can't really watch. But they need her to watch so that she can match something about Miguel in the car earlier, you know, to this particular rape. She does remember something. She remembers his work shirt. And she remembers that she ripped off a button on his shirt as he was getting rough for her earlier. And that can identify him. So they get a warrant for the car. They search the car. They don't find anything, right? Well, do street workers really still have rights? I mean, I'm posing that question to you right now. And we'll get back to that question later. But that's the question. Do street workers still have rights? You know, and they talk to Miguel, and he says he had sex, but he paid her for it. Now, you know dang on well you lying. You're lying. You're just lying. Okay, they show him the footage. He say he didn't do it. He wants a lawyer. He not talking no more. No more questions. He says he got an alibi. His sister can alibi him. Well, they check the traffic cams, and they check his car. They don't find anything. They don't find the button. But I love Liv because they don't think that his sister is going to tell them the truth because his sister is his alibi. How convenient, you know? So Liv tells them it may not be what she tells them, but what she doesn't tell them is equally valuable. They go to the cleaners where she works. And then Captain Curry and Detective Silver, they talk to Miguel's sister. And she says, well, he would never hurt a woman. Yeah, right. She says that Miguel has a thing with street workers, that he has done it before as far as with them, but he has an alibi because he was home. You know, he left his key. She had to wake up and let him in. So they're like, okay, she's sticking to the alibi. And I'm like, why would you protect him? But he's her brother, and she was protected from her father by, you know, her brother, Miguel. So Carisi and Liv confront Mr. Cottle, because Mr. Cottle comes in later because they went to the school to tell on him, basically, to tell that he'd been looking at underage girls, and they get him fired. They didn't know that, but they had got him fired. So he comes into the office, and Carisi and Liv are talking to him, and he admits right then and there that he's sexually attracted to young girls, but he's been fired. He says he wants help with his addiction. Now, Carisi looking upside his head like, I'm about to hit you, okay? Because you're lying. You dirty dog, you're lying. So they have to do something to help him, is what Liv says. Because she says that he's remorseful. And he says he didn't touch any girls. So let's get back to Wallen. What's happening with her? Well, they talk to Wallen. And she's furious that Miguel is going to be back out in the street because Finn and Detective Bruno take her to a restaurant, just like a little diner, and they tell her that he's back out on the street. And she's so furious, and she's like, I hate that I even kept your card, period. So she walks out. And they're like, okay, we deserve that because we failed her. But they don't leave it there. And that's what I love about SVU. They keep digging. They keep digging. So they go out, Finn and Detective Bruno, they go out later that night, and they talk to the sex workers that are out there. The sex workers don't want to talk because they like, time is money and money is time, okay? So they give them $250 to talk to them. And I love it how Finn's like tells Detective Bruno, you pay him the $250, because he knows Detective Bruno has a lot of money. So he's like, okay, you good for it. You pay him. And Detective Bruno's like, what? And he's like, yeah, pay him. So he pays him. They talk. They find out that Miguel has assaulted many of the street workers out there. And then one of them was actually reported into the system, right, about Miguel himself. So Liv says, take all this to the sister. So we're going to go and confront her with the truth. But this time, Liv goes too. They confront the sister with the truth. They make her look at the video. They make her look at the pictures of all the other women and tell her what her brother has done. And they say, why are you protecting him? He's guilty. Why are you protecting him? So they look in the other room, Liv does, and she says that she's a seamstress. And she says, okay, well, you do this for a living, right? Did you recently sew a button back on for your brother on his shirt, his work shirt? And she's like, yes, I did. And she's sobbing. And then she realizes, it clicks for her. He really did do this. But she doesn't want to, because it's her brother. And she doesn't want to turn him in. But what happens when your brother is a criminal? No matter what he's done for you, look at what he's done to others. So they pull him in. They pull Miguel in, and he's there with a lawyer this time, and he's steady lying off his ass, lying. So they're telling him if it goes to court, they got all this information against him, and he's really gonna suffer. And he gets up and he's like, oh, y'all done messed it up for me and my sister. And he's getting all rowdy and Brody up in Detective Bruno's face. And Detective Bruno had me aroused for a minute, because he was like, sit your ass down, okay? Do not make me tell you again. And I was like, oh my God, yes, finally. And I was like, so eventually Miguel confesses, because they tell him, not only do we have your shirt, we have another thing from you, and we have your belt. And guess what? Your belt has DNA on it from Wallen, from you choking her. So yeah, you're going to jail. You're done. You're done. You're done. Yeah. So he's going to do real time. So what happened to Mr. Cottle, the guy that's looking at all these girls and got fired? Well, he asked for help. So Carisi doesn't want to help him. He's like, yeah, right. He's just saying that. And Liv believes that Mr. Cottle does want help. So she's saying that there are options. She can pull some, some favors, make some calls, and they see him at sexual behavior modification or behavioral therapy, where people can actually go and talk to a therapist about their urges before they actually act on them, that they can get some help. Behavior modification is a real thing. And I know people are probably like, oh, ain't nobody talking about nothing gonna make nothing better. Yeah, it can. It can make you want to seek more therapy, more help. It can make you want to do better. Not all the time does it work, but it's better than nothing. So Carisi tells Liv thanks for her help, because he didn't want to do it. And she says she's proud of him because he didn't deck the guy. I am too, because I thought he was sure enough and hit him, So how does it end? So we see Wallen, and they tell her that Miguel is going away for a long time, and that basically it's over for her, that she doesn't have to worry anymore. She doesn't have to go to court. She doesn't have to testify. She can just live her life. But they say to her, we want to know why you were telling us you weren't, doing this, and you didn't want to testify. Well, we find out that Freddie is her son. Wallen is a mom. She has a son, and she wanted to protect herself so she could protect her son, but she wanted to protect her son really more than she wanted to protect herself. And, Finn tells her, you got to protect you. You got to. And they tell her, if you get your GED, you keep working on it, we'll find some type of scholarship program or something to help you, where you don't got to be out in the street at night doing this. They tell her that she could be a good social worker because of the way she treated the other girls. And she introduces them to her son, Freddie. She tells them, she says, I told y'all so. And they said, what? How so? And she tells them that if she cast her bread upon the water, good will come back to her. And it's absolutely right. She did good. And though something evil happened to her, in the end, good was still done to her. And once again, I'm going to pose the question to you guys. Do street workers have rights? You know, that's a question. They get out there and they get on the whole stroll and they sell, you know, sex. That's what they do. Now, in some places in the United States, it's still legal, but most places it isn't. So they can get picked up for prostitution, solicitation, things of that nature, and go to jail, and then still get out and do the same thing. This is my thought process on it. Every human being, and I hope y'all hear me, every human being on this earth is to be protected. I don't care what you do for a living. Any job should have you have a right to safety. In other words, anywhere you go, any job you do, you have a right to be safe and not treated like garbage. And this woman was. Wallen was. She was treated like garbage along with other sex workers that Miguel had hurt because he figured they were the lowest of the low and that they were selling themselves. Well, you don't know why they're doing that. You don't know what bills they're trying to pay. You don't know why they do this. They're not addicted to sex. Some of them are. But in this particular instance, she wasn't. She was just doing it to put food on the table, to be able to pay for her GED, to better her life. So street workers do have rights, no matter what job you do. Being treated as a human being is essential. I don't judge people for what they do because my life isn't perfect. I'm not a perfect person. Things have happened to me. I've done things. Nothing that is tragic or nothing that's extremely hurtful to anyone, but I've still done things that I don't want to be judged for. And I am not judging them. And that's why I cried in this episode. And you can see my makeup is all messed up. Because a mother will do anything to take care of her child. A good mother will. Now, would I go to that extreme? I don't know. I don't think that I would. But I can't say that I wouldn't if that was my only avenue of being able to take care of my child. So don't judge me. Don't judge her. I love this episode. It was so good. I loved how Liv worked with them every step of the way. And she instructed all of her team to work together and then to get this done. Because Ecclesiastes 11:1 says, if you cast your bread upon the water, it'll return to you tenfold. I love you guys. I'll see you next week in the next episode. This is your girl, the Law and Order Lady. Law and Order on.